I guess within Cayman's community, one thing that we can do to prevent future child sex abuse is to let people know what is sexual abuse.
It is very tricky to try to seek help because you're very concerned about confidentiality and about what is this going to mean and what is this going to mean to my family.
What we need to do is to have recognize that we need to form a community approach to it.
Welcome back. It's only 14 minutes after 7, and the video you just saw is part of the Red Cross AIDS Day Awareness Campaign. Here about the campaign and the Red Cross partnership with other organizations is Carolina Ferreira, who's the Deputy Director of the Cayman Islands Red Cross, Miriam Foster, the Coordinator for the Family Resource Center, and Mila Johnson from the Children and Youth Case, who's a Children and Youth Case Manager here at the Cayman Islands Crisis Center. Thanks for coming on to the show today to talk about this important initiative that you have going on. So when is World AIDS Day?
World AIDS Day is on December 1st. This is something that has been celebrated for over 20 years. And, you know, every year we try to do something a little bit different. And there are, you know, global themes for today. We're still at back to zero in terms of, you know, trying to get the focus back at pushing the HIV prevalence and new cases down to zero. But sometimes these global themes don't necessarily make sense to us, or they don't really hit home. So we've always been a little free with the things that we do in terms of trying to get the messages across here in Cayman.
Is that to do with the environment that we live in? Why you feel
It's
like it doesn't hit home?
well, I guess it's just there's specific social and cultural factors that are driving the HIV epidemic in the Caribbean. You know, and one of the things that we're always trying to do is focus on those things so that you can come up with messages that will actually impact people's lives, that will challenge them to think about different things that are actually going on in their community because they're seeing it. And that, you know, that was true for this year as it has been for the last, you know, 10 years that we've actually been doing this in terms of the HIV program at the Red Cross.
Okay, and this year your focus is child sexual abuse. Why is that?
Child sexual abuse, when we were looking at this over the course of the last 10 years, obviously I've been working with youth and seeing some of the patterns and things that are happening. And child sexual abuse is something that we don't necessarily recognize and identify in the way that it needs to be identified. I mean, we've seen, you know, just like grown men who date, you know, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We don't call it child sexual abuse. You know, what we've done is that as a community, we found ways to sort of excuse certain behaviors that, you know, we need to address, because the truth of the matter is that, you know, children, they're still children. They may be teenagers. They can talk back to you and whatnot, but they're still children developmentally, legally, and we're not addressing these issues. And there's a specific link between child sexual abuse and HIV. Not only is the child who is forced to have sex at risk of increased risk of contracting HIV at that first rape, as well as later on in life, because they are more likely to make poorer choices, such as having sex with multiple partners, having unprotected sex, and even selling sex. So there is a very strong link between child sexual abuse and HIV within our Caribbean context.
Okay. Well, Miss Miriam, you're from the Family Resource Center, and Mila, you're from the Crisis Center. Why did you feel the need to join in this initiative?
I just really felt that anything that's going to bring child sexual abuse to the fore is something that we as a Family Resource Center want to support, because we see clients come through our doors all the time, and unfortunately we get them as adults. You know, I wish we got them more as children, but we get them as adults who are now having to deal with that, who are now doing things like cutting themselves, or are in abusive relationships, or just have a very unhealthy perspective of what sex is meant to be. And so they're carrying all of this for many, many years, and they feel like they have no one to turn to, because oftentimes it is a family member, or if it's not, then it's someone that's a friend of the family, and they never felt comfortable. They never felt they had the environment where they could reach out to someone and say, hey, you know, this is what's happening. And no one ever, even if they did reach out, everyone made it hush hush, and you don't say anything, you don't want to cause any problems. And so it's seen, it's unfortunately seen as something that it needs to be hidden and not talked about, and it's somehow your problem. You shouldn't have worn that. You know how he gets when there's drinking involved. It's put on the victim, and I really feel that anything that's going to really address some of those issues, we want to be a part of.
Ms. Johnson, being representative of the Crisis Center, what do you see on a daily basis or on a constant basis when it comes to child sexual abuse and the link with AIDS here?
Well, like Miriam said, we see it more in adulthood. We see the effects of it later, you know, with unhealthy decisions and things like that. And the Crisis Center wants to join with the Red Cross in order to bring awareness to this, because we realize that it affects the community in the next generation. So if we can come together now as a community with these organizations, then we can make an impact on that next generation.
You have a peer campaign, a peer education campaign going on right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
We have a peer education program that we've been running for the last 10 years. Is the Together We Can HIV and AIDS peer education program. The idea behind that has always been to educate young people and make them responsible for actually passing on the correct information about HIV and AIDS to their peers. What we found is that even with with people like me who don't consider ourselves to be that old, but there is that generational gap that comes when you're talking about sex and sexuality, and youth listen to other youth a lot more than they tend to listen to adults. So it's almost like an infiltration thing. If you teach them, they will pass on, and then it's just like in the same way which myths and misinformation can pass on and kind of spread, so can the correct information, the right attitudes about things and everything else. So that's where the youth has been involved with our overall messages about HIV and AIDS awareness and education.
Absolutely. Well, just to close the interview, tell us what's happening next Tuesday.
So next Tuesday, all of the Red Cross and all of our partners, which as includes CITN, and as well as the Crisis Center, Stella Scott Roberts Foundation, Family Resource Center, and a whole bunch of other people are actually launching this campaign, which is going to be a 2-year effort to try to raise the issue of child sexual abuse to the national dialogue. So we're kicking everything off in celebration for World AIDS Day, but it's on the 27th of November over at Carew Restaurant in Camana Bay. It is open to the public. We're gonna that's where we're gonna unveil the public service announcements. And it's just like an actually try to get and also our plans for the rest of the year as to how it is that we can really raise this topic up.
Okay, thank you very much for coming on to this show. Everyone saw the information there. You can go down to Carew. That's Tuesday the 27th of November to get more information on that, and you can contact the Red Cross. Next on Daybreak, it's story time. Stay with us. We'll be right back.